to just check box 3,
Okay.
or box 1, which is the no harassing, molesting, intimidating, and that be the only box that's checked. That'd be the only condition, and then we list Frisco PD as the protected party.
And that I think makes sense. 100 yards away, the way that Frisco, where they are situated is within 100 yards of the sidewalk. So that
Right.
means that she can't even walk down the street. If they're listed there just in general, the Frisco Police Department with the no 100 feet. I know that previously Judge Jones had done an advisement on another case that I also got dismissed with similar issues. She had indicated to Ms. Rose that, it's not illegal to walk down the street. You can walk down the street, just don't be going onto the property. And so I think there's just significant issues, and this has come up in Eagle as well, when the entire police department is written.
Notice how the defense is pushing back on the specific distance requirements. In a small town, a 100-yard stay-away order from a police station can effectively ban someone from the only main thoroughfare, making accidental violations almost inevitable.
Down as a no contact, because that's a community safety
Right.
issue.
Absolutely.
I understand the don't harass, molest, intimidate being on there, but in terms of not being able to be within 100 yards or like any distance requirement or contact in general makes it very difficult. In this case that had just come up on Friday, she was walking on the other side of the street. A police officer was making a stop protection order they believed was properly in place. Did not go get a warrant or anything like that. They just went straight to her house, and when she refused to let them in, they just busted in after her and essentially tackled her onto a bed and arrested her.
How soon after the event?
Like an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. I was already back home
Why they didn't probably
watching
get a
YouTube
warrant?
on my phone.
Right.
And yeah.
Okay. Well,
I was only on
I will just
that.
say, and I know your attorney wants you to be mindful of your right to be silent, Ms. Rose. I don't mean to be interrupting you, but, I think we've addressed this restraining order before, and the court has entered it the way that it was requested, which I think was 100 feet away from the department. But I see the sense in changing it to the way that Mr. Martinez has requested. So I can't really make any further comment, but it sounds like the dismissal was appropriate based on those facts and circumstances. And I want to get it right because I
Explicitly list Frisco Police Department as the protected party within the protection order.
okay.
And
So-
I do think
so
that
we're
that would serve the purpose
So
of it.
do you understand that, Ms. Rose?
Yes, that's
Okay.
perfectly reasonable.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
And I was just saying, I do think that that will ultimately serve the purpose that everybody is looking for here, so that there are not any unnecessary arrests or cases developed, and that the Frisco Police Department does feel sufficiently protected. The other thing I would note, Your Honor, is there do appear to be concerns from Mr. Burney about how Ms. Rose is doing on probation, and that she has not reported in Buena Vista since transferring it to Chaffee County.
Okay. So the original complaint was filed in March, and then the amended complaint. And I'm not sure of the differences between the original and the amended. Is it more failures to report or testing? Or Mr. Birdie, can you just, without me having to pull them up and read them, I'm sorry.
It's just further non-reporting to probation.
Okay.
And further non-reporting to drug testing.
Okay, that's what I
As well
figured.
as the fact that it continued, we still do not have any evaluations completed.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Probation officers usually care more about non-reporting than almost anything else. It signals to the court that the defendant has completely checked out of the system, which often leads to much harsher penalties than a single failed drug test would.
I'm perfectly comfortable living the way that I live. I'm happy down there. The only reason I was planning on just doing this virtually again, like I have the last couple of court dates, the only reason I even came up to Summit County in the first place was because I had several different memorials to go to this weekend. I had a former boss on Saturday and a really good friend of mine that I've known since 6th grade that we've been through everything together yesterday. And that's the only reason I'm even in the county right now. I've only been up here for a few days, and the first thing I do, I'm just simply skateboarding around town. And I was on the opposite side of Main Street from Town Hall, but then the officer had somebody pulled over on that side of the street on the same block as Town Hall, which is the only reason I crossed over the street to be on the Town Hall side, because I didn't want to skate right past the officer. And I just looked back to see if he noticed me on the sidewalk. That's why I looked back, and we made eye contact, and then I just kept skating, went home, was minding my own business. He showed up at the door. I just cracked the door open a little bit. What's this about? I'm not supposed to talk to you. This is the third time in the last year, not just the second. There was the two, restraining order incidents that got dropped. But there was also last summer, the officer that arrested me on Friday was harassing me. I was just sitting in the park in Frisco, in the historic park under the gazebo, and he drives by. And then a second later, I see him walking around the corner. And did you flag me down? No. Oh, I thought you flagged me down and wanted something. No. And then he just approached me and wouldn't leave me alone. And I started getting aggravated, and he kept telling me to stop yelling at him. And I kept saying, I will stop yelling at you if you just walk away and leave me alone. I have nothing, I have no business with you. Just walk away. There's no reason for you to be here. And he just kept talking and wouldn't go away. And then he issued me a ticket for lives that probation does not help people. It sets them up for failure, because what it says is that they don't trust me to do the right thing as a 39-year-old adult without my hand being held. I do not need a mental health evaluation. I have seen so many therapists, many of them very incompetent. You can clearly see that, I'm not, some, barely functioning hobo on the streets. I've spent my entire adult life.
It is rare to see a defendant cite their religious tenets as a legal justification for non-compliance. While her argument for bodily autonomy is deeply personal, the court views probation as a voluntary contract, where you trade some of those rights for your freedom.
In treatment, therapy, counseling, recovery centers, studying psychology, spirituality, sociology, psychology, all of that stuff. And I am the only one who truly knows what's best for me. I am a Satanist, and our main tenet of Satanism is posted right up there on the wall. It's believe in yourself, not an authority figure, not some mythical being. Believe in yourself. And the second main tenet is bodily autonomy. No human being has any authority over another human being. And marijuana, which it takes a while for marijuana to get out of your system, it's the only thing I've tested positive for in this whole ordeal. I'm still clean and sober. I'm doing great. I don't have a phone number, which is awesome, because when I go back to my campsite, I can't just sit there and doom scroll all day. I have to be in town to get on the internet. And I love that. A few weeks ago, I even specifically went up to a couple police officers in Buena Vista who were sitting having coffee outside a coffee shop, just taking their break, and thanked them for being nice and reasonable, because I've had a few brief dealings with them in the past, and every time they were perfectly just very friendly, very understanding, not harassing me. And I went up there and thanked them and told them everything about the stuff going on in Frisco and why I'm down in BV. And they know I'm homeless. They see me walking around with my big backpack on all the time. They don't care. They just want to make sure I'm safe. And my intent is never to harm anybody. you know, like, which is why I took it out on the tires when I did, because I felt like after a low level form of torture. And then when I was in the women's pod, I'm isolated to myself for no reason other than it's state law. And it's one of those laws that I understand in like a bigger prison or whatever. It's meant to protect people. But in my case, it did nothing but harm me. All of this started because I called for help when I was feeling suicidal and I wanted to not kill myself. So I reached out and was manipulated and tricked into handcuffs and abducted from my home against my will by a corrupt officer who has absolutely no capabilities to empathize with anybody. He made it clear that day, this is Officer Hornick from the Frisco Police Department. He made it clear that day that he does not care about other human beings. While I'm sitting in the hospital screaming, pleading for them to just put a gun to my head to end it all because I'm in so much pain.
The SMART team mentioned is a mental health co-responder unit. Her frustration stems from the perceived hypocrisy of a system that advertises help, but, in her experience, defaulted to handcuffs and forced hospitalization instead of de-escalation.
He's sitting there, just a smug, satisfied look of contempt on his face, just staring at me, just waiting for me to lash out at him so that he would have a real reason to arrest me. He clearly did not care. When I was strapped handcuffed spread eagle to the hospital bed in the emergency room in front of about a dozen people, the rooms are all glass right there. You can see and hear right into the lobby of the emergency room. I was then stripped naked, taken one limb out at a time of the handcuffs by police officers, not the doctor. And then the other time last summer in Salida, when after I read the article in the Summit Daily about the SMART team getting awards, and they detailed in the article that the SMART team exists specifically to prevent exactly what happened to me from happening. And that threw me into a massive depression. And so I tried to overdose on pills. That didn't work. And a couple days later, when I was withdrawing from that and super angry, is when I decided to call the Frisco Police Department and just one last attempt to try and get any sort of apology or acknowledgement from them that they maybe didn't handle things the right way. I've never wanted anything from them other than that. And when they wouldn't even give me that, that's when I lost it. And it was an empty threat. I had no intention of actually harming anybody. I was in Salida with no car. Like, there was no imminent threat. And I understand the severity of death threats, but like, I'm autistic. I have a hard time. I still have nightmares about the whole situation 2 years later. And like, I firmly believe that I have served my time. Like, I don't need the government to hold my hand to do the right thing. I'm an anarcho-communist. I believe that we all should help one another and do the right thing without having anybody to tell us. Because forced morality is not morality. And legality does not equate to morality. The Holocaust was legal under German law at the time. So, like, just because I'm, breaking the law doesn't mean I'm doing anything wrong. Like on Friday, I was just skateboarding down the street. And I firmly believe that if I'm not actually harming anybody or anything, there's no point in having a law about it. If there's no harm done, it doesn't matter. That is my personal belief. And I'm just like, I tried to get my probation transferred down to Salida, but then I realized like, I didn't have the money to get to Salida. I'm not going to hitchhike. I'm a trans woman. I would much rather not hitchhike if I can avoid it. And just
Okay, Ms. Rose.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're getting a
Fine.
little behind. You've had a lot to say, and I always find you very articulate, and I think it's your story is compelling. First of all, I'm sorry for the loss of your friends.
Thank you.
there's a lot that you said that I sort of adamantly disagree with. Our probation officer has about an 80% success rate. So I don't think we're setting people up to fail. Does it work for everybody in every case? No. Is it working in your case? Maybe not. I understand, your rights to believe in what you want to believe in. And I've never heard the term anarcho communist or belief in yourself. I mean, I think that's a good thing, but I disagree with you that, there are laws that you must follow. You're absolutely right. The Holocaust was basically.
The defense is smartly moving to an admit or deny hearing to buy time. When there's this much personal animosity between a defendant and the local police, sometimes the only real solution is a transfer of supervision to a completely different jurisdiction.
And I think that you do have a lot of insight, and you've studied a lot, and you've researched a lot, and you have unique experiences that have given you a lot of insight into mental health. And, I'm sorry for your suicide attempts. I'm glad they were unsuccessful. You've done a lot of work, but I still think that I'll be honest with you, I think you have some more work to do.
We always do.
Always, right? I mean, I think you have these intense emotions, you have anger, you have so many things with regard to the Frisco Police Department, and it goes both ways. It absolutely goes. You have their number and they have your number. And it's like, but recently you have been trying to abide and been, in the right, I would say, more than they have been in the wrong. So that's, and I don't know what to do with that. There's so much personal animosity between you and that department. It's really unfortunate. And I think that I'm glad to know. So I don't, so that's what I'm charged with doing, is how do we move this case forward? And so I'll ask Ms. Lopez, and I don't know if you and Mr. Martinez have had any discussions about it, or what the next steps are.
We haven't.
We have not.
And I think that, I don't know, Mr. Martinez, how long you've been on Miss Rose's cases, but maybe I think that was great to hear kind of her version of events. So maybe a discussion is appropriate for you two to have a discussion, obviously with Miss Rose input, and try to be creative and figure out a path forward.
Okay, and I guess, so I'm happy to talk after this. I can't speak to everything that Ms. Rose spoke about just now, but obviously the probation concerns are there, and I do recognize those. So I think at this time, I would just ask to set for an admit deny, and in the interim, Ms. Lopez and I can discuss possible resolutions.
Okay.